Hello, welcome to Blindpomegranatetarot. I am Christine and this is Spiritual Brew. I am so glad you guys came today because this is a very special one. For those of you who are new, what we do every Tuesday here is we drink some coffee and we discuss a subject. Today's going to be a little bit different, but in the bottom of this cup are coffee grounds. This is Armenian coffee. And I was taught by my great-grandmother how to use my intuition to read the coffee grounds. And I'm going to teach you how to do that as well. That's what we do every single week. It's a great way to learn to trust yourself and your intuition. But what's so different about today? Well, for those of you who aren't new here, you know because I've been teasing you about what I'm going to do. Today is our very first ghost stories and coffee. So I'm a medium, a clairvoyant, and an empath. And so I have a lot of spooky stories to share. So I thought I'd start sharing those with you guys. This is just a little change up from what we usually do. Let's have some fun. What do you say? So I'm going to pass you guys off to pre-recorded Chris, who's recorded all of the stories already. And I hope you guys enjoy them. I had so much fun doing this. It was really, really great. And I look forward to doing it again. So if you guys like it, please let me know because I enjoyed doing it. I hope you guys love it. When pre-recorded Chris is all done telling you guys some stories, you're going to come back here and we're going to look at the coffee grounds together and see what we see. That should be fun too. There's a little something special waiting for you guys at the end of the video, so stick around. And if you want to, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We have a good time over here. Oh, and don't forget to come back on Thursday because we're going to do that pick a card, okay? All right, have fun. Does this place look familiar to you? It might. We'll get back to that. Affectionately named the Cuckoo, yes, not very PC. The Oregon State Hospital for the Insane was founded in 1883, and it was innovative. It was the first in the Pacific Northwest. It could hold quite a few patients, and it held patients with anything from nervous breakdown to serial killers. Now, it was renowned also for its lobotomies and electric shock therapy. And in the mid-1900s, it was overflowing capacity. They had somewhere near 3,200 patients in this building. Now, it's a large building, but not big enough to hold that many people. When it first started, of course, they had grand ideas of what to do with it and how to rehabilitate people. So there were baseball teams, and they worked on farms, they had jobs, they farmed their own food, and they even worked in the hospital itself. Which leads me to a story. I think it was in the 1940s. They had a patient that was working in the kitchen, and by mistake put a sort of rat poison in the food, thinking it was sugar, and about a dozen people died from that. In total, they believe tens of thousands of people passed away in this hospital. Now, like I said, in the 1950s, right around the middle of the 1900s, it was overflowing capacity, and the conditions were horrific. Around the 1970s, an op-ed was written by the Oregonian telling of the terrible conditions that were going on inside, including they were using human beings as experiments. There was a private room that nobody talked about. It was real hush-hush in the hospital, and they were actually doing experiments on people. Horrific lobotomies, horrific shock therapies, and other things. Because of that op-ed, the hospital was closed down. Now, in 2008, when the state stepped in to rehabilitate the building and make it into a museum, they found over 5,000 copper urns filled with ashes from unclaimed poor souls that died at this hospital. Now, the state is working really hard to try and find their family members and have found a very few. And they now have a memorial there with all of the urns inside of it to memorialize the poor people who lost their lives there, who died there. There's a lot more to this story. You guys can look it up. I'll leave you a link down below if you're real curious about it. But let's get to how I feel when I go into this facility. I've been twice now. Now, I have seen shadows okay? But more over in this facility, the energy is so thick and so sad and so hurt. I can almost feel our emotions of the people that lived and died there. You know, it's really sort of infected the walls. Now, the museum is very small. They only have a small portion of the front of the building made into a museum, and the rest of the building are offices and that kind of thing. But there's one particular room that you go into, and in there is an actual lobotomy table that they would have used. And they would have just rolled it from room to room and doled out electric shock therapies for anything, for somebody who had, yes, serious mental illness, or they actually have a story in there about a woman who was sent there just because she wouldn't listen to what her husband told her to do. So, you know, that was the time, right? I think that was in the 1920s that happened. But my reaction when I went into that particular room where they had the medical equipment and the lobotomy table, and they even had some old bottles that would have held medicine inside of them, doctor's pads and all kinds of stuff. I had a really visceral physical reaction to it, and I had to actually leave because I became lightheaded and dizzy and sick to my stomach, and like all my energy had been drained, and I thought, this is really bad. And it was so heavy, mostly in there because they had dedicated that whole room to medical equipment, and so many terrible things had gone on at the hospital. But now they are honoring those people. They have memorialized those people, and I think that's a beautiful thing, and I think that the state is doing a remarkable job. But this has to be one of the most heavily how do I even want to say it? So heavy with the thickness of the energy of people who have come and gone from there. It's literally like in the walls. This is why I'm telling you about this place, because it is so incredibly unique that way, that it can drain yourself, your energy, your own energies when you're in there. So here's the last picture. Do you recognize this place now? So I told you about the story from the Oregonian, and they actually won a Pulitzer Prize for that reporting, which led to the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and then the movie being filmed there. So they actually have a whole area of the museum dedicated to the filming of the movie, and you can see here Jack Nicholson and everyone that was in the movie, and that's where Nurse Cratchit comes from. So it's a very interesting place to go to. If you're ever in Salem, Oregon, I strongly recommend it as a sort of spooky, interesting, historical place to go to. Okay, next story. Ugh, I hate this place. Anyway, the Tillamook Air Museum. Probably one of the worst places I've ever been. For many reasons. I'll explain. So, my brother and sister-in-law were out visiting, and, you know, my brother, being a dude, was like, oh, let's go to the Air Museum, because we were driving past it. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. And so we go in there. There's a museum. He wants to look at the planes, because, you know, he's a guy. And the front of the museum is nice and modern. The back of the museum is a hangar where they keep all the planes. And these are planes from the 1940s, mostly World War II. And there's kind of like an office area that would have been part of the hangar. And it's all glass windows. And you don't go inside of it, but you can see all the way through it. I'll get back to that. Talk about your creepy places, okay? It was raining. No shock. It's the Pacific Northwest. But the roof leaks. So there's puddles everywhere and water dripping, and it's dark and it's gloomy, and all you hear is drip, 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 and you're like, I hate this place. and then I come across the office area, and there are 3 spirits in there, and one of them is real nasty. Probably one of the nastiest ones I've ever come across. And he is yelling at me. I'm the boss here. I rule here. Get out. And he's laughing at me, telling me he's going to kill me. it is just sucking the energy out of me. And there's 2 other spirits there that I can tell he's kind of claimed for himself. And they're stuck there, especially the third one that was very meek, didn't say anything to me. I think really wanted out, but couldn't because of this nasty man. I got the sense that he was literally from World War. He may have been World War II and Korea, because I got the feeling that he was sort of a lifelong military. But he was a nasty piece of work. And I was so sick and so on edge as he's yelling at me. And my brother's going, oh, I want to go check out this plane. I want to go check out that one. And I wish at the time I had said, no, we're leaving. But I didn't. I was just like, okay, go look at the planes. I'm just going to stand here while this dead guy screams at me that he wants to kill me. But go for it. Finally, I just said, I'm going to meet you guys outside because it was painful, it was scary, it was horrific. He is a nasty piece of work. And I've run across all kinds of different spirits in my time, but this one was the worst. And I could kind of tell when I was talking to the employees there that, she was like kind of giggly nervous about telling us, sure, go back there. I think they all know how haunted it is. They can't not know. They have to have seen stuff. They have to have heard stuff. Even if they're just a little bit sensitive, they had to have recognized this man. Now, he wouldn't come out of that office area, but he was just a nasty piece of work. And I think he had trapped those other 2 poor souls in there. So the whole thing was just creepy as all hell. But then with the rain and the dripping ceiling and the, him screaming and yelling at me, and it was dark and it was dingy, and I was like, oh my God, this is horrific. So I would love to see like an investigative team go there and really research the place. But it's in Tillamook, Oregon, and Tillamook is on the coast. And I think it was used for during World War II for sure as part of the defense for the West Coast. But I think it was in operation for a long, long time. Now, of course, they just have old planes and that kind of thing from wars and other things. But he still thinks of himself as ruling that place, and he may even have in life and just decided, it was a great time. I'm just going to stick around here, and I'm going to intimidate anybody who comes along. And that's very much what he did. Spirits don't normally scare me. I wasn't afraid for my life or anything, but yeah, he wasn't somebody I wanted to hang around and chit-chat with. But I'd love to see somebody go in there and really do an investigation of it, and then maybe like get rid of him so the other 2 can move on. I think, but this, no. I'll never, ever, ever go back there again. Never go back there again. And anybody who wants to go and visit it, good luck to you. That was a short one, but I had to share it because that was probably the nastiest spirit I've ever come across. So, okay, next story. Deep Woods Estate. It's one of my favorite places here. One of the first places I went to see. It is a museum. It is sort of a community center as well. They do tea parties, and they do Christmas parties, and they do art shows, and they do garden shows, and it's just a magnificent house, as you can see here. The woodwork inside of it is just amazing. It was built by a Dr. Porter in 1894, and he sold it in 1895, so he and his wife never actually lived there, because during construction, his son Omega went missing. He, from all accounts, fell off a ship and drowned, but his parents didn't believe that. They didn't want to believe that. So they packed up and they went back east to look for him, and they never came back. So it's a very sad story, but he built a beautiful house. So when I went to see the house, of course, there's a docent that walks you around, right? And she tells you, or he tells you all about the place. Well, they really love doing their job. And there's one in particular who decided she was going to stay. And that's how I first met a little old lady docent who followed me through the entire tour and corrected the docent when she was wrong and told me when the docent was correct and had a lot of little additional information to share with me while we were taking that tour, which was kind of cool, really. It's a beautiful house, and if you're going to hang around somewhere, well, why not be there, right? Now, when you look out the window from near the stairwell by the dining room, there's a mound. It's odd. It's this big mound of earth, and it's covered in grass. And the docent took us over to the window, and she said, "Do you see that?" And I said, "Well, yeah, you can't miss it, right?" She said, "We believe that's an ancient Indian burial ground, and nobody will touch it because, of course, they don't want to disturb it." I said, "But they haven't checked. They haven't even looked." She said, "Nobody wants to even know what that is. So they don't even do radar or anything else. They just leave it alone." So this is a really cool house. And if you ever come to Salem, there's a couple of them just like this. There's the Bush House as well that you can take a tour in. So if you love old houses, this is one of the best. It's a great place to spend an afternoon or go for one of their tea parties or just take a walk in the gardens. It's really beautiful there. So that was a short one and a fun one. She was really cool. If I ever go back, I'll say hi to her again. I'm sure I will. Okay, moving on. Next story. Okay, you guys knew I was going to do a cemetery, right? You knew. So this is the Lee Mission Cemetery. Jason Lee was a missionary for the Methodist Church that came to Oregon through the Oregon Trail. And in 1843, he dedicated this piece of land as a cemetery. And on the gate, it says 1838, which was the death of his first wife, and 1843 was the death of his second wife. So he moved his first wife and their son that died during childbirth to this new cemetery in 1843. That's a theme for this guy. Okay, stick with me. So you'll see here in a minute his parish along with some housing, and they were apartments, really unusual at the time. But he liked to keep his missionaries nearby. This is the parish, the church. And he liked to keep his missionaries nearby. He always kept his flock real close to him. This is a trend for this guy. Okay. Now these houses have been moved from other parts of the city around Salem to the Willamette Heritage site, which is there's an old mill there where they used to actually do textile dyes and that kind of thing. So that's where you can actually visit these houses and take tours of them. That's the old mill right there. So the cemetery. So after going to the mill and we heard about this guy, and the first time I saw his picture, immediately I got, oh, he was not nice. It's, by all accounts, he was a very strict, very pious man. And the Methodist Church actually caught on to him eventually. I'll tell you why in a minute. So you can see the cemetery here, and it looks real neat and tidy, but when I was there, it wasn't. I know that there's a society that's trying to keep it up, but at the time, it really wasn't very well kept. And it's not very big. It was 4 acres in total, but really overgrown. But right in the middle, there's like a cemetery within a cemetery, and it's surrounded by these wrought iron gates. There it is. So, who's in there? Well, his family's in there, and his missionaries are in there. Again, he kept them nice and close to where he was. Moreover, he took his missionaries that had spread out around Oregon after they died, had them interned and moved to within those wrought iron gates right there. So when we got there, I thought, this doesn't feel right. What's up with this? But maybe me, I went inside anyway. I stepped right inside the gates, and immediately I felt an arm hit me hard in the chest, almost like I was standing right next to somebody and they put their arm out to stop me from moving. So it, of course, shocked me, and I backed out and I went back out of the that little enclosed area. But I told my cousin what happened. He said, "Well, do you want to go back in?" And of course, me being me, I was like, "Yes, I do." So we went back in. I knew it was a male. I put 2 and 2 together. It was most likely him. Still keeping an eye on his flock. And like I said earlier, I can many times when I have strong sensations about spirit being very close to me, I'll have a real physical reaction. And so I get lower gut pain and discomfort when spirit is real close and real aggravated. And so I wasn't in there for very long because I did start to feel sick. But like I said, this was a theme for this guy because he moved those bodies without any permissions to do so. And the Methodist Church said, oh, I don't think so. And eventually they pulled him out of Oregon. He tried to fight to stay, but they weren't having it. So in 1845, he went north into Canada, where he died shortly after that, just before his birthday. So, interesting guy. If you want to read more about it, again, I'll put a link down below. So that's just a couple of stories. I've got loads of them. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, let me know. Tell me down below. And stay tuned, because here comes reading of the coffee grounds. Bye, guys. Welcome back. Did you enjoy it? I hope you did. I had a really good time making that. So, for those of you who are new, what I do is, once I'm done drinking the coffee, is I turn it upside down on the saucer. I turn it 3 times. 2 and 3. And then I let it sit, which is what I did. Then I'm going to turn it over. And what you're going to do is, you're going to go with the very first thing that you see. Let your intuition guide you. Okay? Trust what you see. And then leave in the comments down below what it is that you see. Everybody sees a little something different, but this is a great way to practice your intuition. Okay, are you ready? Oh God, I'm so weird. Okay, ready? Interesting. I'll go ahead and turn it so you can see all the sides. Oh, I see what it is. Okay. It's a good thing I make myself laugh. Because nobody else is going to do it for me. I had so much fun doing this, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know. And also, I would love to hear your ghost stories. Maybe I can put them into the videos. What do you think? Maybe I can share some of your ghost stories. There is an email down below. You can email me your ghost stories, or email me a voice recording of your ghost story, and I will absolutely put it into the next one, because I love to hear them too. I hope you really enjoyed this. I have so many stories to tell, but I wanted to stick close to home this week. So all of those stories you noticed were here in Oregon. But I have traveled all over the world, so I've got some for everywhere. Boom. Bye, guys. See you on Thursday. Bye.